Aww.
Surprise!
That's so exciting. Well, thank you. For those of you who are tuning in, this is Off the Shelf. I am Nicole Fowles, and my new co-host that I'd like to introduce you all to today is our Deputy Director of the Delaware County District Library, Miss Molly LaBadie.
Good morning, everyone.
Welcome.
I feel honored to be here as the co-host. I'll do my best.
You will be great. We have worked together many a time, and then you have also been in my shoes many a time when I have decided to have babies. So,
I remember that time.
Well, the voice you heard on the lead-in was that of Fred Schaefer, who was the one who helped us originate this wonderful show, Off the Shelf. But behind the board, we have Gage Tellis today.
I put something together to make that happen for you.
Thank you, Gage. And our guest today is Hannah Simpson. She is our communications specialist at the library, and she is going to be talking to us about a special visit from an actress, author, producer, Felicia Day. Welcome, Hannah.
Thanks for having me.
Well, this is a really exciting day. So I'm not going to say that it's the ushering in of a new era, but a little bit.
Oh, yeah. It is.
We're going to bring a whole different kind of energy to this show.
We really are.
George has always said, and for those of you who are listening who may not have known, George retired on September 30th. So he is now probably listening while he's sitting at home drinking his coffee and, I don't know, doing the Wordle.
Sitting at home.
Yeah.
Aww.
And so now it's me and Molly. But we're going to keep the same format with just a little bit more manic energy.
Absolutely. And more weird trips to strange places and random things popping up.
Yeah. So if you're just now joining us for the first time, stay tuned because it'll be fun.
Oh, yes.
Well, the way that we always start our show is we begin by something that we've been reading, watching, listening to, binging on, or anything like that lately. So I will begin with Molly. What have you been reading?
Well, I decided to go because this is now going to be my new challenge, is
Oh, yeah.
keeping up with books each week.
Oh, good luck.
So I actually went back to the beginning of this year in my reading.
Lucky.
And yeah, I know I've got an advantage there.
Yeah.
So I'm going to talk about, I read Caste. It was the first book I read this year, The Origins of Our Discontent by Isabel Wilkerson. It was a fascinating read. I have to say it was sort of a hard read because it's that whole idea of the caste system. You know, they talk about India, but they also talk about the U.S., the Nazis. There's a lot to unpack in all of this, how caste systems start, how they move. I mean, think about, you know, growing up, I always heard that term, the other side of the tracks. And I never really thought of that as a caste system. I thought of caste being in India, where we had heard about a caste system.
Sure, yeah.
But really kind of breaking it down and how we set that up and what it takes to try to work against the caste system, too. So I don't want to go into all the details. It's a fascinating read, and I think it's something to adventure on your own. But I highly suggest Caste, The Origins of Our Discontent by Isabel Wilkerson. Just learning about the stories. I mean, Martin Luther King Jr. went to India, and he was talking, and they were talking about his place in caste and sort of his response to the idea of that caste system. And, you know, it's easy today to look back on that, but it was really, you know, that really struck me when I was reading that, how this affects us as we go forward.
That is very fascinating.
I know. I pulled that. I went kind of lower energy there, didn't I?
That's all right. Mine will be maybe mid-level. Where are you at, Hannah?
I, like Molly, do not have to do this week to week. Well, Molly does now.
I do now.
But so I went back to my favorite thing I've read all year.
Oh, good.
It is called The Force of Such Beauty. And it's fiction by Barbara Bourland, and she writes about sort of gilded cages. So her first book was about fashion magazines and a woman who died seemingly from starvation, but because of beauty standards. But this book, The Force of Such Beauty, follows a South African young woman named Caroline, and she set the world record for the marathon. And then she falls. She trips while she's running and just shatters her face, shatters her hips.
Wow.
And what does she do? Well, her sponsors pay for a very fancy rehab and facial reconstruction, and she comes out more beautiful than ever. And in her rehab center in like Switzerland, it's very lush and cushy, and she meets the prince of a small nation.
Oh, I like this
Monaco.
book already.
and the gilded cages. She becomes the princess of this, and as she keeps trying to escape after a few years, like This is not what she signed up for, although it is definitely what she signed up for when you read the book. And it is. And the author in her acknowledgments, she's like, all of these details I pulled from princesses throughout history.
Okay.
I pulled it from Princess
yeah.
Grace. I pulled it from Princess Caroline. I pulled it from even back in the 1300s, these
Right.
kind of princesses.
Yeah.
And it's dark, but I liked it. I like things that are very, have a high sense of aesthetic. And so, of course, a small Mediterranean nation is going to
Yes.
be beautiful.
Yeah.
And a lot of the, you're like, there's no way you have to have rules like this to live in this country for even the non-royals. And that's true, actually, of Monaco.
Yeah.
And so it was beautiful. I devoured it. It's one that I read from the library and then purchased immediately because I had to have it in my house.
Oh, nice.
You know, when I was young, I always wanted that princess. I had that dream. I was going to marry a prince. And as I get older and I read what it's like to be royal, no way.
No,
I
thank
mean,
you.
I do have a sparkly fancy tiara that I bought,
Yes.
but
As do I.
that's about all I need, I think. I don't need that media blitz or the rules or the,
The people telling me what to do every day.
Yes.
I feel like I would have a problem with that.
or what to wear.
Nicole, your Aquarius is showing.
I know. I would have a big problem with that. I would not mind somebody telling me what to wear every day. I hate picking out
You're
outfits.
always so put together, though.
Well, it's
I have
because
put together
I have a
envy.
small closet to choose from.
And in this book, she does. She discovers that her whole life she feels like breeding stock. Her whole job is to produce heirs,
Heir and a spare.
an heir and a spare, and that is and it becomes her whole. She's a runner. She was thin. She was not. Her body was built to run marathons, not give birth.
Yeah.
And also it thinks about what an athletes are. Like, you're young and then you run your marathons and you're done at 22 and then
Gosh,
you have the whole expanse of your life ahead of you.
Yeah.
Talking about athletes and their quote unquote retirements at 32.
Yes.
in
And
the
no financial literacy, and
Right, yeah.
so
Yeah.
Oh, and the fear of injuries. Like that whole, my niece just started running junior high and her ankles hurt. And I'm like, this could knock out all of her sports.
Right.
Like if this isn't, it's crazy the pressure that is on athletes to stay in one piece.
Ugh. Yes, our bodies are fragile. Take care of them. Love them. Give them all the good things. Remind us the title and the author
The
again.
Force of Such Beauty by Barbara Bourland.
That sounds great.
lovely. I am talking about, along with our theme, this second half of the show of us having the great one and only Felicia Day joining us
I love
on
her.
October 15th. We are also having another author come in November, on November 12th, named Tommy Orange. He wrote a book called There. And so that's what I wanted to talk about this week. I finished it several weeks ago, and it's probably taken me that long to process it.
Yes.
The story is about, basically, it follows 12 characters, all from Native communities. And I'm using the word Native because that's what Tommy uses in the book. But you might know it as American Indians, Native Americans, or Indigenous peoples. All of those terms are terms that community is still recognizing. But in this particular book, Tommy uses the term Native. And that's how most of his characters recognize themselves, as Native peoples. So it follows these 12 individuals, and they're in Oakland, California. They're all traveling to what's called the Big Oakland Powwow. And it's like most of what we would know today of these cultural events that celebrate, the history of other cultures. So anyone can go and attend this Big Oakland Powwow, but of course it's celebrating Native culture.
And it is, sorry,
go ahead.
and the powwow takes place at the Oakland A's baseball stadium,
Yes.
which is very beautiful juxtaposition between classic American baseball, such an American concept, and then you
Yeah.
put the Native celebration and the powwow on top of it. It's really beautiful the way he set it up.
Yeah, I agree.
There is so much beauty in this story and so much trauma in this story, and that's a really great way to put it, Hannah. And I think that's also why it's good to note that this was a Pulitzer Prize honor book.
Yeah.
It has all of these different people. There's Jackie Redfeather, who's newly sober and trying to pull back together the family that she left behind. There's Dean Oxendine, who's trying to figure out his life and continue a project that his uncle had continued by telling the stories of Native people and capturing them on film and putting them into a documentary. There's 14-year-old Orville, who is just kind of finding his voice in the Native community, and he's coming to perform a traditional dance for the very first time. It is really, really beautiful. But I wanted to, Tommy, of course, himself, this is what you would call own voices story. Tommy is an enrolled member of the Cheyenne and Arapaho tribes of Oklahoma. And he was born and raised in Oakland, California. And so he has this really great way of telling the story of urban natives, which sounds, like those two words don't go together, but he does it beautifully. I wanted to read just some of what he writes in this book is like poetry. And he talks about an urban Indian belongs to the city, and cities belong to the earth. Everything here is formed in relation to every other living and non-living thing from the earth. All our relations. The process that brings anything to its current form, chemical, synthetic, technological, or otherwise, doesn't make the product not a product of the living earth. Buildings, freeways, cars, are these not of the earth? Were they shipped from Mars or the moon? Is it because they're processed, manufactured, or that we handle them? Are we so different? Were we at one time not something else entirely? Homo sapiens, single-celled organisms, space dust, unidentifiable pre-bang quantum theory? Cities form in the same way as galaxies. Mm-hmm. And this is just one paragraph of a novel that is pure poetry. So I would definitely recommend picking it up now so that you can read it before Tommy comes on November 12th. He will be at our Orange Branch Library. It is a free visit. But yeah, that's There by Tommy Orange.
I read it. He was winning all the new author awards the year this came out. So I ended up reading it that year. And I have to say, I have aggressively pushed this book on more people than I think any other book in the last 5 years. Because once I read it, it was complex but easy to read. I didn't feel like it was ever anything that I couldn't relate to or over my head, but I was learning the whole time. And the surprises in it are just...
It's what I would call accessible. It doesn't feel
it's
like
accessible literature.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it's pushing anything upon you. You can still follow a story, you can still follow a character, and if you catch those layers, good for you, but if you don't, it's okay.
You'll still enjoy it and get the
and
message.
get something from it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the title is from a famous quote by the one and only Gertrude Stein. I love that woman. She was originally from Oakland as well, and she would, when people would ask her about it, she would say, well, there's no there. Like, you could go there, but what is it? And he delves into that. And so, it's another one of those layers about Oakland in general.
Yes.
In the shadow of the bay and all of that.
And I appreciate people reading it for the first time and learning about the history of Alcatraz. I'm not going to totally go into that, but if you don't...
I forgot about that.
If you don't know the history of Alcatraz, it is fascinating. And the only reason that I knew anything about that is because I took a visit out to Oakland and San Francisco and Alcatraz several years ago. And so they told the history of the natives on Alcatraz.
That's going to definitely be one of my bucket list trips. That's
it's
so
a
Molly.
It is. It's cool.
All right. Well, with that, we are going to take our first break and, our only break until we say goodbye, but our first break, and then we'll see you on the other half with Hannah Simpson talking about Felicia Day. Welcome back. I am Nicole Fowles, your host here today with my brand new co-host, Molly Myers-LaBadie.
Hello again.
Welcome, Molly. We're so happy to have you on the crew of Off the Shelf.
Excited to be here, learning a little bit new from you each time.
Every time. Just get ready for it. But I don't plan on having any more babies, so you don't need to completely take it. Hannah's thank you.
Thank you.
We are joined today by Hannah Simpson, Communications Specialist at the Delaware County District Library. We're going to talk about a special visit from someone.
I'm so excited.
Tell us who she is and why she's special.
Her name is Felicia Day. And so excited. If you're listening, she has written 2 books. One called You're Never Weird on the Internet, Almost.
Which
is
sort of... It's not really, it's kind of a biography, but it's really just it's a memoir. That's what it is.
It is a memoir
about her unconventional upbringing and why being geeky is incredible, which is something we celebrate at the library. And then their other book is called Embrace Your Weird, and it's sort of a workbook on creativity.
Yes.
And so, but you may know her if you have not read those books, if you're listening, because she is an actress. She was on Supernatural and The Magicians, and during the writer's strike of 2007, she was in a YouTube show called Dr. Horrible's Sing-Along Blog, which we just showed this week at the Strand, and it was a blast.
It was so much fun.
So we are bringing her as the kickoff to our Great Geek Fest, our Comic-Con, because we're here to geek out, and she's the perfect person, and we're so psyched.
Oh my gosh, yes.
She is. This has been a work in progress. So, Hannah, why don't you give us a little bit of the backstory of how we got to where we are today?
And my eyes glaze over, and I look into the distance. The year was 2019, and we were prepping up for 2020, which is to be our 5th annual Great Geek Fest, and they said, go big. And we said, all right. So we started to book Felicia. We had all our contracts ready in like February. And then, we all know what happened.
Things happened in March of 2020.
Happened. And so we're like, it'll be fine. It'll be fine by the fall. She can still come.
Yeah.
No, that's not what happened in the fall of 2020.
No.
And then last year we still were not quite comfortable because of that Delta surge.
Yeah.
And so now it's 2 years later, but we've got her. She'll be here next weekend, the 15th, next Saturday. It's going to be great.
Still a magical being, in my opinion.
She is delightful to work with so far, and I cannot wait for you guys to get around her and hear her speak. And she's just like a little ray of sunshine.
So she'll be at the Willis Education Center, which, if you're not familiar, that's located in downtown Delaware on West William Street. It is a former, middle school, intermediate school. Now it's the administrative offices for Delaware City Schools. United Way is located there, but it has a beautiful auditorium, a little bit newly refurbished. Parking is a special thing at Willis. What do we know about parking for it?
There are 2 lots very, very close. There's one across the street. There's like an empty, grassy lot, but just behind that grassy lot, there's a parking lot that we are allowed to park at. And then there's a lot behind the Domino's Pizza, which is next door on Washington Street.
And all street parking.
And there's tons of street parking in the Northwest neighborhood right there by downtown Delaware.
And it's such a lovely place to walk around. I love walking around downtown Delaware.
Yes, I do live just around the corner from Willis, so it is prime location for me.
So it is a free visit. It's on Saturday, October 15th, beginning at 7 o'clock p.m. What can we expect on that evening?
Well, doors will open at 6:30, and so get there, get your seat. There's not really assigned seating, and we'll have some information about the Geek Fest, which is the following weekend, and Beanbag Books, our buddies, will be there selling her books. And if you buy a book, you can get it signed by Felicia after her speech, after her presentation. She's going to be talking about creativity and embracing your weirdness and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then and she'll be signing books and taking selfies. And it's just going to be like a happy, geeky evening.
Yeah, we're really happy to present this for free to the community. We have, semi-limited seating, just, what the auditorium will allow us to have. So if you want to make sure that you're on the list, visit delawarelibrary.org/event or events, and you'll be able to click on the October 15th date and RSVP for your seat, and we'll make sure you're on the list.
And if you need to do a quick catch up who Felicia Day is, and you don't have a lot of time, I got to talk about my favorite Felicia Day thing.
By all
the
means.
Guild.
Yes.
Her YouTube, I think did you
She
do?
created it.
Yes.
She dreamed it up herself, and she covers it in her book. It is incredible what she did to make this happen.
Dungeons and Dragons fans, this is going to be so much fun for you. It's about a group of Dungeons and Dragons friends who get together and start just seeing the reality of it. As a geek girl from the 90s, when geek wasn't as chic as it is today, I have to say I really related to a lot of what she's put into the web series, into her books, into things like that. If you don't know much about geek, my dad used to watch or read things like that to find out what my world was like. So I highly suggest that as another way to get in there.
Yes, and that's all available on YouTube. It was very popular on YouTube. In fact, she was sponsored by
YouTube.
It was YouTube, and the Guild was also sponsored by Xbox.
I think so.
Yes, she goes over that in her book. The sponsorship was money from Xbox to
And it really kind of pushed her out through the door. Like, we think about people are making all these crazy things on the internet. And I love that she says nobody's weird on the internet, because this is something that just helped her through that door to get on all the things that we've loved her, supernatural and I love all the geeky things.
It's so funny, her upbringing, too. I talked about it previously when we talked about her book, You're Never Weird on the Internet, almost. But she had this she as a homeschool student because of her hippie parents, and they didn't like the school system. And so they're like, I'm going to do it myself. And so she said the morning half of her life was studies, and then the second half of her day was all of the lessons, and field trips and this and that. And so she became a violin savant. She became a math savant, and so she went to college and double majored in both. And she graduates from University of Texas, has her violin performance and mathematics double major, and then goes to LA and is like,
Yeah.
I'm going to be an actress.
And does it.
And does it,
And does
yeah.
it.
Yeah. She said she was getting, kind of typecast into the quirky secretary role and all those sorts of things. And meanwhile, while she was getting these little gigs, she was doing a lot of online gaming. And so that's really, the Guild is almost semi-autobiographical of her online gaming experience. So we're really excited to have Felicia Day. Like Hannah said, we had a little trivia earlier this week at the Strand Theater where we where we showed the whole Dr. Horrible sing-along blog. You can check all of her books out from the library, but I definitely recommend buying the
Embrace Your Weird.
Embrace Your
Yeah.
Weird. Yeah, because as Hannah said, it is a workbook. It is, you're going to want to write in it. She's going to give you prompts that are going to say something like, okay, you're walking down the street and someone spills their Starbucks. What do you do? And then and then she wants you to just write, just do some free flow.
Yeah. We don't get as much chance as adults to just get that. When you're in school, you get those writing prompts and your teachers, there's something to just getting there and putting those thoughts down and just letting them go.
Yes, creativity is definitely something I think many American adults struggle with tapping and using, and something when children were encouraged to use. And so Felicia's made a whole career of it. And so if you feel like you've got a creative bug in the back of your brain, come see Felicia.
Yes.
And she's going to make you laugh.
I'm really excited to see the audience that she's going to bring because she's relatable to like Gen Xers, specifically because of her TV appearances and all of those shows that she was on in the 90s. But then I think she's going to have appeal to some teens who were at the showing earlier this week. But I think she's, just because of what she's talking about, creativity, pop culture, she's at all of the Comic-Cons. So
Absolutely.
she knows all these people.
Yeah, she's pretty great. It's
gonna
going to be really fun. There's other stuff happening at the library, though, this week,
Sure
isn't there?
is. Absolutely. So we have lots of things happening at the library. One of the very first things that's happening is, I don't know if you know, but Lego Club is back.
Lego Club.
We have two upcoming Lego clubs, one at Ostrander and one at Delaware. The one at Ostrander is taking place Saturday, tomorrow. If you're listening on the replay, you'll be able to catch the one at Delaware on Tuesday. But at Ostrander, it's 2 o'clock. Meant for kids ages 6 to 11. It's all, elementary age if you have kids who love Lego. And then Tuesday at October 11th at Delaware, it's going to be 6:30 p.m. and about the same age. We usually have some prompts. We usually have some free build.
Talk about creativity.
Talking about creativity.
Critical thinking. These are skills that we need as we grow up.
Imaginative play makes great readers.
And it's that we do them in such a team way that you're learning to be creative with others.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you have if you're a grown up who loves Lego and maybe your kid doesn't so much, it's okay if you come and you make them come along because you can do it together. That's fine.
Yeah.
Anything else, Molly, that you noted on your?
I'm really excited about Books and Brews again.
Yes.
We go to the Daily Growler, our PAL program, and on October 12th we have The Pearl by Josh Malman.
Yeah.
Now I haven't read this one yet, so I'm
Gonna
going
be
to
spooky, though.
see if I can.
I know anything
love,
about Josh
It's
Malman.
October. It's spooky season. All the spooky shows, all the spooky books, the very little sleep because I stay awake because of them all, but I do it anyway.
I have Pearl, and it's about a pig, so I'm not sure but it's spooky. It's a spooky pig.
I'm going to like this.
I haven't
I
started.
feel like you're just going to throw all the odd and strange, and I'm going to be like, mine.
That's
Mine.
that's my thing. I love odd and strange. We have two opportunities for you to meet our brand new director, Brian
Yes.
Howard. He has been on the job shadowing with George over the month of September, and then as of Saturday, he officially took the reins. And he is now leading the Delaware County District Library. So if you would like to meet Brian and you want to do it in just kind of like a friendly, open setting with snacks, then I would recommend you come to the Powell Branch Library on Wednesday at anytime between 1 and 3. Just drop in.
Yeah.
Brian will be there doing open office hours. Introduce yourself. Bring a business card if you have one. He'll exchange with his. And if you can't make it to the Powell Branch Library, he'll be at the Orange Branch Library on Thursday from 4 to 6. Same thing. He'll be in the cafe kind of right there when you first come in. Again, snacks, business cards. Say hi.
I always love to go to things that have snacks. It is still a big draw for me.
Right.
You never
They're
outgrow
the best. Never outgrow it.
We have some other creepy things coming up. Do you want to talk
Creepy
about the
things?
creepy crafting?
The creepy crafting,
It's
of course.
coming up on Friday, a week from today.
Hold on, let me make sure I've got it up here. I'm not as smooth as you on all this yet. Creepy crafting is coming up Friday at
The orange branch.
The orange branch thing. Look at her feeding me as I'm getting
right.
used to this. I've got it
Gently.
like everything up. Yes, at the orange branch. They're going to be preparing for Halloween. So this is a program for ages 13 to 17. This is one of our teen programs. So come between 3:30 and 4:30 and expect to be making some really great creepy crafts to go around your house. I have to say, every Halloween I try to make my own kind of, okay, mine are more the cutesy creepies, but crafts to add to my house. I must add something new that will come out year after year.
Exactly. You just get a sheet and you just throw it over something, draw some black circles on it, and ta-da! You have a ghost.
Or you put a rock down and you're
Nicole, your
like,
creativity.
I know it's
this
through the roof.
rock is what
Wait.
Charlie Brown got in his basket. So you just pile those and there is your
Ta-da.
trick or treat.
I
Exactly.
just wrap myself in orange blankets and become the great pumpkin.
I just drink all the pumpkin.
You may
That's
become
what I
a
do.
butterfly before all said and done if you do that enough.
Hannah's chrysalis. And the last thing I want to do is I want to thank, as always, our Friends of the Library for their sponsorship of
Yes.
this show. If you are adding Friends events to your calendar, add the one that is coming up on the 14th and 15th, which is their bargain book sale. It's their last bargain book sale of the year. It's at the Delaware Main Library. Friday night is 5 to 8, and Saturday is 9 to 3. I believe they'll have all sorts of things at this one. Usually they add media. But, come check out, see what
You
they've
just
got.
get a good deal with them.
Oh, yeah.
And all of their funding or all of the proceeds help fund things that we do at the library.
Yeah.
So
So,
they're awesome.
Big thanks to our Friends of the Library. They'll have lots of other things coming up at the end of this year. Thanks to our partners who are helping make Felicia Day's visit possible. That includes Delaware City Schools, the Friends, Beanbag Books, and, of course, the Delaware County District Library. Hannah,
Oh, gosh.
you have been wonderful. Thank you so much for coordinating Felicia's visit.
Always have fun when I come here to the radio.
Absolutely. Molly, thank you for being my new partner in crime.
I'm loving it. We'll get into more and more trouble as we go.
Absolutely. Gage, as always, thanks for running the board.
Of course.
And I'm going to continue it. Listeners, we will see you in the stacks.